Hello, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well. And in the following presentation, I'm going to provide, hopefully, a useful and effective overview of the cause and effect genre. So, to begin, I often suggest um, the utilization of some type of visual to help you frame, right, and brainstorm your composition. In this case, I'm utilizing the subject of pollution and the manner in which this variable, this element of pollution, leads to particular effects. In this case, pollution leads to an increase in health-based cases, increase in taxes to help create clean air policies and procedures, a change in the production of resources also aimed at diminishing these air-based toxins. Okay, so you notice on the left, I have the subject of pollution uh, leading to particular effects. Now, it's very simple, right? It's there's not much to it, at least in terms of uh, what this visualizing tool allows me to, the manner in which allows me to organize my composition. It should also be noted that if I do this, as noted also in the thesis statement, your argument, it also helps me delineate each of my body paragraphs. So, for example, and notice I play around a little bit with thesis statements. If in this case the thesis is pollution, whether air, environmental, or ecologically based, leads to health problems, economic effects, and a lack of sustainability in current resources. Now, over here, very similarly, as long as you have what that table does for me is it allows me to show a relationship between the cause and effect. So, for example, almost identical thesis. Pollution leads to a compromise of one's health, economic well being, and a sustainability of technologies and resources. So, that argument, again, remember a thesis has to be argumentative, at least in the context of an expository draft. Otherwise, you're stating a fact or you're stating something that the reader probably already knows, and thus they no longer they're no longer going to be motivated. They're no longer going to feel a need for a sense of agency. So if I'm demonstrating that pollution leads to these particular effects, this particular structure, defined as a categorical or analysis structure, is going to show me within each main idea separate categories. So, for example, the first category, pollution tends to diminish an individual's healthy state of being. It's category one. So, in that paragraph, I'm going to illustrate the relationship between pollution and health implications. Second category, pollution will ultimately raise taxes in an effort to adjust clean air policies and reduce harmful toxins. Now, uh, um, again, your main ideas should imply an argumentative stance. Um, and you know you don't necessarily have to be biased, where you're tilting one way or another on the pollution agenda. But here, obviously, pollution is definitely a detrimental cause, right? Nobody wants to pay taxes. So because of pollution, provoking issues of like recycling and things of the sort. So I'll talk about that in a little bit, uh, where I'm illustrating, the cost in billions of dollars. Anyways, third category, pollution leads to a change in technologies and resources. Okay, so let's take a look at this. The first relationship, first category, again, structure of my body. It's a categorical structure. I'm going to illustrate and I'm going to talk about the manner in which pollution affects us, whether it be air pollution or water pollution, environmental. soil pollution, right? Um, so this is something to think about, right? Um, but at least my category there is very simple, very clear. There's no issues about it. The second category, taxation. Well, we obviously if we have pollution, then it's going to affect us economically. Uh, Consider recycling. Recycling, I believe, last I read about and researched, is costing us approximately about $9 billion. On the year, $8 to $9 billion. I don't know if it's gone up. It's been a bit of time since I um, marked that number, but that's a good chunk of change, isn't it? Third category. So if we think about, obviously, we in the scope of progress and advancements and things of the sort, um, technologies have changed, but it could also be noted that because of pollution, then we're going to change technologies. And so we're going to have previous resources, previous tools that we're going to have to do away with, right? Which might have an effect environmentally, economically. Hopefully, we can recycle some of these things, but again, there are some harms to recycling as well. There's some good to it, but there's also some harms, right? So consider, I like the example of vehicles. Vehicles used to run on carburetors, and now we have vehicles that are running on fuel injection, and probably now even more advanced type of technologies like electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles and things of the sort. So you see there, you see how I'm demonstrating how pollution is leading me through these three different categories that I've created. And this is called the categorical structure. Okay. So I hope this helps illustrate this helps illustrate the structure here in terms of a thesis and a categorical organization. Um, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to show you now, rather than a cause to effect, I will show you an effect to causes approach. Okay. In this case, I'm going to take the effect of pollution rather than pollution being an effect. We're going to utilize pollution as an effect. And what are some of the causes? So note that rather than having several effects, we have one effect that has several causes as the variables. Pollution is a result of consumerism. Pollution is a result of the exploitation of fossil fuels, and the result of an unregulated industrial base. Okay, so let's take a look. And the first, the example here is the thesis statement. Again, it's got to be argumentative. So let's take a look at it. Pollution is the result of overt consumerist practices, the exploitation of fossil fuels, and an unregulated mass production industrial base. Okay. Structurally, it's also categorical, and I'm demonstrating several main ideas. The first in which I'm showing the relationship between the effect of pollution, um, actually, and this is argumentative, right? Rooted in consumerism, shopping, right? The second one is pollution, the result of much needed fossil fuels, burning of fossil fuels. And I know the second one sounds a little bit like pollution being a cause, but I'm going to try to negotiate it as, nevertheless, as pollution as being the effect of the use of these fossil fuels. And the last one is pollution as a result of a lack of regulation in business and industry based fields. Okay. So this is my support. Now I've just got to provide examples, right? So the first example is pollution being the effect of consumerism. Well, how else are we going to produce if we don't consume? It's that supply and demand context. And I'm pretty sure you can tell the artist. I mean, he's iconically, um, immediately identifiable. This is Banksy, right? Demonstrating, I think the image is called "Shop Till You Drop," and he's being over, exaggeratingly literal in the dropping of a woman here, but quite metaphorical, of course, here. So, I like this image because it kind of gives the message that, goodness gracious, I mean, we consume and we consume and we consume. So guess what? Production's not production's not it's not slowing down. Right? So this is an interesting take on it. The second example is mass production. This was pretty kind of almost factual, so to speak. Uh, Factories and companies and what have you. When you produce, you burn up resources, amongst those fossil fuels. And it's the burning of these, oil and petroleum and minerals and what have you. And it creates these toxins up in the air, right? Um, and if it goes up in the air, then obviously, then it's creating these toxins that will somehow, some way find themselves to our system, to our internal biological systems. And the third one is, you know, um, this idea of a lack of regulation. So, the reason I have a diesel truck there, and I'll illustrate another type of structure in just a little bit, but uh, quite often, the not just for transportation, but the manner in which we're deteriorating our environment and deteriorating certain ecologies. There's very limited, or there's very minimal regulations that are keeping a focus on big business or the industry. And sometimes actually it's not even in the industry, right? Oil or electricity or something like that. It's the abuse of these industries. Technology, for example, is one. I can't remember where it was. I think it was Indonesia, and they showed an image of a region where big tech in the production of cell phones and computers and things of the sort. There's like blobs of some type of liquid all over, spread all over the environment. Where are the rules and regulations to impose consequences on these big businesses? Right. Uh, so think about that. You see how I'm illustrating this categorical relationship of this effect, the result of these causes. Okay. To end, I'm going to show you one more structure. It's in the same token of that pollution as a result of these causes, and this one is called a chronological approach. By chronological, I mean to say that one cause leads to another. One cause which has an effect converts then that effect into a cause, which then leads to another effect. So, for example, same thesis, pollution is a result of consumerist practices, mass production, elements of transportation. So you look at that first one, consumerism leads to mass production, and then mass production is the effect, then becomes the cause which enables the transportation sector. Right? So it's like a chain link. This cause leads to this effect, which then becomes a cause and leads to another effect. If you want to write your essay in that manner, it's a pretty effective manner in which to compose it as well. Okay. I hope this helps you. Um, the opposite of this, right, of the chronological is the categorical. But I hope I'm showing you, and I'm doing it in such a brief manner, the distinction between the categorical and chronological approaches. Okay. Well, that is it. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope this has helped you, and hope you have a good one. Thank you.